Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Copilot Compass, where each week we take a deep dive into Microsoft 365 Copilot. As always, I've got the pleasure of being joined by my esteemed colleague, fellow Copilot enthusiast, and our resident smart guy, Logan.
Thanks, Grant. Happy to be here.
Logan, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit more about what they can expect in this week's episode?
Yeah, so as always, we'll get started with our question of the week, and then we'll get into our topic, which is Copilot and PowerPoint. So we're just going to go on a deep dive of, some of the things, some of the new things that you can do in Copilot and PowerPoint, and some of the, the existing functionality that's already been there for a while. So it should be an interesting episode. And make sure you stay tuned to the end for a sneak preview of what we have coming out next. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.
All right, let's get to our question of the week.
Oh, that's it. So let's get into our question of the week. And remember, you can submit your own question either by leaving a comment on this video or by emailing the email address in the description. So this particular question is, to what extent can Copilot be tailored to specific industry requirements or niche workflows?
Yeah, another one that's kind of a studio type of answer, I guess. But yeah, I think the way that I look at the Copilot journey and really everybody's, every organization's journey, and even, within an organization, every business process, their journey with AI is going to be different. But in my mind, like, my favorite way to structure that journey is to start out with some of like, and again, we're speaking from a user perspective here, so not necessarily down to the business process level, but to enable your employee base to start out with some of the easy and obvious scenarios that come with Copilot out of the box. Like especially if you have hybrid team, remote team, where you're on a lot of teams meetings, use that meeting recording and the summarization, the meeting notes, the action items, use all that. Have it help you summarize those long PowerPoint decks or PDFs. Have it help you organize your inbox, help you with responses and creating material, kind of some of those, like what we call the top 10, like those kind of main scenarios that are a bit, available, basic out of the box, that apply to really any role in an organization that's using M365. And I say to start there for a couple of reasons. One is you're going to realize a lot of efficiency gains right out of the gate, and potentially the ability for people to produce a higher quality of material in a shorter period of time. But also, that's cheap and easy enablement, because those scenarios are going to be, maybe a bit different role to role, but for the most part, going to remain, the same across the business units. Now, your next step there is to start to come up and identify with these, role specific, I think your question should was industry specific, but, kind of tailoring it for your specific needs with, either custom built agents or even like custom prompting that's like, just for those use cases, and starting to look at, all right, what are those more manual processes and how much efficiency gains can we have by using Copilot there? So, again, how much can it be tailored to industries or niche workflows? I mean, really, honestly, the world is your oyster there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. I'd say a good starting place is to go to Microsoft's scenario library and look at your industry, or even like your department, whatever you're looking to build off of, and use that as a starting place. But also, doing like promptathon, hackathon type of engagements, looking at business processes and trying to find agentic plays within those processes. That's really where that customization goes for those niche workflows and industries. But I don't know, Logan, what's your perspective on this one?
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a lot of good points. But yeah, as far as like the specific industry and becoming really niche with your use of Copilot, like you said, Studio is the way to be, is the way to go. Sorry. And I think there's a lot of power in being able to create an agent that you say, hey, like only answer questions in this specific way and only look at these exact specific sources. And with that, you can really narrow down your agent's, lens, and become really niche and super specific, which is great for lots of different use cases. But yeah, I think you covered, most of the other things that Colorful said.
Well, how about, since I covered it mostly, that I'm gonna put a question on top of the question. Do you have a favorite, niche workflow or a favorite industry that you think Copilot applies best to, or really any AI solution for that matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think. I mean,
Putting you on the spot.
yeah. I do think I do think there's a lot of great HR solutions, with creating these like chatbots that can answer questions
Yeah.
about, that like HR is there to, help people and answer questions. And a lot of that type of stuff can be helped out by creating an agent. So yeah, I think super useful in HR. And then also the other thing is, every company has an HR department. So it's, widely accessible. So I think that's a great use case, but there's plenty of them.
Yeah, that's a good one. For me, it's, like, the service industry. So, like, like customer support, partner support, whatever the case may be. But, people that are dealing with, customer service. There's a lot of really good use cases there. Like we talked just a minute ago about meeting notes. Like, all right, you're on the phone. If you can do it through Teams calling and set your call center or support team up that way, you can get those notes taken and then if, transcribe it into your Salesforce or your CRM, whatever tools you're using, Dynamics. So that's another good one. And then one that I think is super effective is, if you're dealing with let's say your support team is you produce like some kind of a physical product and you've got a support team that, if something breaks down or, people have questions on, they call this, your team. You can build really easy, like in 15 minutes, even I could build an agent that is almost like a Q&A agent for them on the product manual. So that, as the questions coming in that maybe they're not familiar with the answer of, they can just ask the agent quickly, hey, help me solve this challenge based on that, one document. That's its source of information. It pulls from it and references that material right there. And that saves you it's not only saves your team time and your resources time, but it's also a much better experience for the customer. They're getting an instant answer rather than this person having to say, hey, let me check with our experts. Let me escalate you to the next level. Either they're waiting on the phone longer, they're having to wait for some kind of a follow up. And then, like I said, it saves your team time because they don't have to deal with the follow-up. They can just get those answers right away. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that was a good question and then a sub question, if you will. But let's shift gears here and let's talk a little bit about PowerPoint.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. So our topic of the week for episode 29 is actually a spin-off of episode 2 of the Copilot Compass. So we're going to talk a little bit about PowerPoint. Couple of reasons we wanted to revisit this. One is, well, it's been 27 weeks since we last talked about PowerPoint, and Copilot has changed and improved upon itself. So there's some new stuff to cover there. Plus, I always think like, driving long-term adoption sometimes does require you to go back to the basics. And PowerPoint really is a powerful tool for us here at our day-to-day roles. Can be super helpful, really helping us build good polished presentations. So today we're going to do a few different demos for you. But before I talk about those demos, there are a few other things that I want to touch on that we're not going to cover in demo today, just for the sake of not having this be a 2-hour long episode. One is the real-time voice interaction. So we're seeing this come in more and more to different, applications of Copilot and AI, but especially good for like accessibility needs or if you're on the run, being able to, instead of having to type out your instructions, there's basically an icon now that allows you to just use your voice. So we'll show you in the demos where that is, but we won't demo how all that functionality today, but something cool to check out. Again, accessibility needs, it's great there. Microsoft's always been sort of on the forefront when it comes to accessibility. But it's also helpful. Like, I've used it before when I got something kind of long. I don't want to spend the time typing it out. I mean, I'm a quick typer, but I'm not as quick of a typer as I am speaker. So being able to kind of go in there and use that has been something kind of helpful for me. The other one that is coming soon, but I'm really excited for, is context-aware edits. So now Copilot is going to be able to, when you ask it to like clean up a slide or make sure the text is all grammatically correct or sounds in a certain tone, prior to today, Copilot's only looking at that one slide when you ask it to do that, so it's not referencing the rest of the material. Coming soon, Copilot will be able to kind of take the context, like the formatting, the tone, even the terminology that you're using, and look at the rest of the deck and sort of align new slides there. Now, where is this going to be helpful? In co-created decks. So there's a lot of times, especially, like you're talking about, like maybe a sales pitch or something that's coming up. You've got maybe some folks on one delivery team that are working on it. There's another delivery team also working on it. You've got the account manager or account executive working on it. Maybe you've got somebody on your finance team that's making some edits in there. And even if these people are all detail oriented and professional, they're not going to all work with the same tone, voice, and formatting. So you can really use Copilot to help you identify and then resolve some of those issues. Now, as we sit here recording this episode in the last week of July, this is not yet available in the current channel, but we do believe that it is coming soon. I think from what I've heard, we're looking at sometime late 2025 for this. So be on the lookout for that. So our demo today is really kind of, it's a sequence of demos all at once. So only got one crow's nest, but several demos within it. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you again how we build a presentation from scratch with Copilot. Then from there, we're going to add in a new slide. So this is something that is new since the last time we talked to you guys about PowerPoint. We'll add in a single slide rather than having it work on the whole deck. And then we're going to revisit how you sort of summarize that material. And along the way, we'll talk about how we use this, each of these kind of features in our real world jobs. So long demo. I'm excited to do it, but let's jump right into it. All right, so we are gonna do some demos here in PowerPoint. Like I said, it's kind of a series of demos within demos here. But before we do that, I did promise to show you where you can use your voice to prompt Copilot instead of typing it out. So you can see I've got the Copilot, that right side chat pane open. What you'll now see down here is I can always click in here and type as if I normally, have, but you're also going to see this microphone button here. So right now it's in pause. I click it, I wait, a second or so, and then it's going to, basically indicate to me that it's listening. And then when I'm done, press the button, stop, and it puts my voice there. So really helpful for long prompts or if you have accessibility needs, but we got a lot of other stuff to get to today. So let's go into our demo. So we are going to start by creating a new presentation. Now, you can do that down here. We've showed you before how that's different than using this icon up here. This is much better if you're creating a brand new presentation from scratch. It's just going to give you more flexibility to add sections to it, to reorder things if you want, and kind of see that outline before everything actually gets physically built. This the right side chat, when you do it, sometimes it'll say, basically opens up that other experience instead, or it's going to be what we call like one-shot prompting, where you give it the prompt and it spits out what it thinks. So with that, would really encourage you to just use this kind of top icon here, which is exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to say create a presentation. Now you can do this with a file. We're not going to do that today, but a really good scenario, like if you have a lengthy SOW, you're getting ready to go meet with the customer, so you want to get like an executive level overview or a pitch deck on it, you can have Copilot take that SOW and build it into that style, or kind of that context. But today we're not going to do that. We're going to actually just build a presentation from scratch, and it's going to pull open here this kind of this experience here from that icon. So it's its own separate window that pops up on top. And now we're going to create a presentation about. So I'm going to put Logan on the spot, as I like to from time to time. Logan, what's our topic of our presentation?
Let's do some of the most like famous pirates from history.
Okay, great. We'll stick with the Copilot Compass, our nautical themes here. So let's say a history of some of the Most famous pirates in history. Anything else, or we want to stick with just something basic like that?
That works. Yeah. Let's see what that gives us.
Okay. All right. So here we go. What you'll see is a slightly different experience now. So we talked about how Copilot's changed since episode 2 when we first did this. What you're now going to see is you've always had these kind of topic level, like high level bullet points to give you the layout, but now you're starting to see some visualization to that here on the left side. So that's new. Um, and it looks like, okay, we've picked some of the pirates that we have here. Uh, Blackbeard, the infamous pirate of the Caribbean, Introduction to Piracy, Anne Bonny and Mary Read, Captain Kidd, Bartholomew Roberts. Okay. This looks pretty good. Now we can add topics in here. So maybe we want to say, I don't know, can you think of another topic? What might we want to add on top of this? Like something to go after. We talk about the intro to pirates. We give an overview of these pirates. Maybe, um, how about this? What about a timeline of when each of these pirates lived?
Nice.
Okay. So we added a new section here. This is one of the reasons that I like this experience better than that right side chat pane. I wouldn't have had a chance to see this layout first. It would have just built out what it already had here, but we've added a section. Now we're good with it. So once we've got, maybe if I don't know why it shows these orders, I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I'm not up to speed on my pirate history. So I don't know if this is like by, you know, like the time and, the point in history when each of these were, but whatever, we'll keep it for now. We'll go ahead and generate slides. And you're going to see it do what it's always done. So it's going to start to build out that material for you, show you the layout it wants to use. Logan, you got any good ways that you've used Copilot to generate slides?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's always such a great tool to start, when you really don't know where to start, just to kind of get a drift going. So whenever I know I'm gonna need to create a big deck, I'll just go into Copilot and I'll usually just give it like a super vague prompt, or I'll just like attach a document that I know it's kind of related to, and then just kind of get started from there. Yeah.
No, that's a really good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it's building us out some material here. We're starting to see, kind of it's taking it one step deeper. We saw the structure initially. Now we're starting to see some of the topics within that structure. This isn't all of the text that will be in the slides, but it's at least kind of letting us get a little sneak preview on what it's covering here. Going to be a rather long deck. We gave it a very generic topic, so it's probably pulling in a lot of different information for us. So not uncommon to expect this to take, a minute or so. All right. And now it looks like it's just loading up my material for me here. And here it goes. So it gives you this view, sort of this like structure overview by default. You can go ahead and just double click on one of the slides and it takes you to this layout. Now it's got a nice presentation for us here. It's pulled in some visuals. Yeah, some stock images. I'm guessing maybe it created some images for us, but it's got a good structure to it here. Look, I'm pretty happy with this. You can also too, like, Copilot applies like a design it likes. And from what our understanding is with that context thing, it's probably in the future going to look at how formal was the topic that you gave it and maybe try to make the presentation more formal there. We gave it, a bit of a fun topic, so it went fun with the design, but you can always use the design suggestions icon here. That's not a Copilot feature. That's a PowerPoint feature. So you should have that with your M365 anyways, but you can play with that to come up with the design. You can also always use the slide master functionality if you have like your organization has a specific template that you like to use or layout. That's something that we do, when we're building out slides. If, we'll have a couple of different templates that we use in the form of a slide master. So you can, even use Copilot to help you with some of those slides and then apply the master theme to it. So in any case, what we have here is looking pretty good. Now, everything that we've done here is the same as it was when we covered this back in episode 2, with the exception of just like a little bit better, more effective. And we also showed you kind of that little, it's got the little text snippets, images there when it's creating the layout for you in that first phase. What is new here is adding an individual slide. So maybe let's go take a look at our timeline material that it put for us at the end. Let's see what it covered. All right, so it's got kind of an overview of these ages, 18th century. Maybe what we can do is we're going to say a new slide with Copilot. And maybe we want to add something like how piracy ended.
Mm.
I said the decline of piracy. I don't know what it comes up with here, but so this is new. This was not available when we covered this in episode 2. Adding an individual slide, really helpful when you kind of look through the deck and recognize like, hey, I'm missing this topic. But yeah, so this is kind of got a good added a slide for us. So it talks about what the downward trends is. So it looks like enhanced naval patrols makes sense. Stricter laws, sure, sort of makes sense. So yeah, very cool. It added a new slide in for us here. All right, so the last thing we want to show you in our demo today is going to be the summarization. And again, this falls under the category of not new, but better than it was before. So we'll, set the stage here. So let's say you're preparing to walk into a meeting. You were provided with an overview deck, like a briefing deck in advance that you were supposed to review so that everybody kind of starts the meeting, already up to speed. You don't have to spend 10 minutes kind of going over it. But you either forgot to do it, you just got busy and it kind of fell the back of your mind. Now you're walking to the meeting in 2 minutes and you haven't even looked at it. So before, you have to kind of skim through it, go slide by slide quickly and see if you can catch up on at least the cliff notes, but you're probably missing important points when you do it. So now what I can do here is I'm just going to use Copilot to help me out. So I will pull open the right side chat pane for this, and all I'm going to do is just ask Copilot to summarize this material for me. So as it's loading here, you'll see it's already one of the prompts that it suggested for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it this time around. And here we go, my summary. So now I can kind of get an overview of what's covered in here. Maybe I know that this is kind of, again, a bit of a stretch, but let's say I know that I'm responsible for the Blackbeard material. So maybe I want to say, summarize the Blackbeard section. So I'm getting a little bit more specific, trying to ask it like, so go a little bit deeper onto one particular section. And here we go. Now it's answered that question. So this kind of Q&A on the PowerPoint can also be really, really helpful for you. So yeah, PowerPoint has been a great use case since M365's rollout. It continues to be a really good use case in the form of both efficiency gains in summarizing long decks or creating a first draft. But it's also improving quality of material. You no longer have to present just simple bullet points. You can use Copilot to organize your presentation. In the future, you're going to be able to use it to kind of help contextualize it with the rest of the material and make sure the formatting is consistent. So if you've got M365 and you're not using it in PowerPoint, really encourage you to start trying it out. In today's journey of the Copilot Compass, we revisit a topic from episode 2, which is Copilot in PowerPoint. So we talked to you a little bit about some of the things that are new and different in PowerPoint since we, recorded episode 2. We also gave you sort of an extended demo. We built a presentation, showed you how some of that functionality has changed a little bit in the last couple of months. And then we showed you the new feature, which is adding in a single slide within a presentation. And then lastly, we revisited summarizing that long presentation with Copilot.
Yeah, it's super interesting to see, how much Copilot and PowerPoint's changed over the past 6 months. And yeah, I'm really curious to see, what's going to happen in the year from now. So yeah, you enjoyed the content. Feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. And remember, we have Q&A sessions every episode, so leave your questions. And remember, new episodes are released weekly.
Yeah. So next week, another exciting topic here. We're going to talk about analyst. So a couple weeks ago, we took a deep dive into researcher. We also revisited researcher actually in last week's co-sell enablement episode. But researcher, a really cool agent that's available to you as an M365 Copilot user. In the researcher episode, we referenced analyst, but we're going to take a deeper look at that and show you how that new tool, uh, works for those of you that have it. So join us again next week, and we'll take a deep look at analyst.
See you next week.
See you next week.